The truth behind Bohemian Grove.
Before we move any further, we need to know what the Bohemian Grove is. The Bohemian Grove itself is a place created for an annual gathering of a men's club called the Bohemian Club. This grove is a restricted to a 2,700-acre campground in Monterey, California. It was founded in 1872 by a group of journalists, artists, and musicians. The Grove hosts an annual 2-week encampment in July where members engage in various artistic and recreational activities. The club's motto is "Weathering Spiders Come Not Here," which implies that outside concerns and businesses are to be left outside, hence the suspicion of a conspiracy. Now we're going to be talking about the history of satanic panics in relation to the Bohemian Grove. The claims surrounding the Bohemian Grove have been characterized by some as a form of moral, or going by the term used in the 1980s and the 90s in the US, a satanic panic. And in case we didn't know what a moral, or in this case a satanic panic was, it is a widespread fear or concern about a perceived threat to society. Emphasis of the word perceived, often exaggerated and mostly unfounded. The conspiracy theories have suggested occult rituals, human sacrifices, and other heinous activities are being taking place during the annual gathering. The next slides is going to be talking more in depth about these claims, either debunking them or confirming them.
Content of the claim. Are satanic rituals and sacrifices being performed at Bohemian Grove parties? Before diving deep into the history and what is actually going on at the Bohemian Grove parties, we must first fully understand the claim and recognize what it is asking. What has to be true in order for this claim to be true? First, let's break down this claim into smaller theories to conclude if the claim is true. The claim mentions that Bohemian Grove must be satanic, performing rituals and sacrifices. So what makes something satanic? Satanism, by definition, is the worship of Satan, a figure in Christian belief who is depicted as evil, the leader of demons, the devil himself. Where else have we seen Satan worship in our history? A popular wave of hysteria known as the Satanic Panic in the 1980s and early 90s, which included widespread conspiracies involving satanic ritual abuse of children. This included bizarre rituals, sexual abuse, and sacrifices performed by secret satanic cults across North America, which led a wave of criminal investigations. This is only one example of when satanic cults were accused of performing rituals and sacrifices. Maybe the Bohemian Grove is doing the same. Or maybe they're just another group of people who are being accused of such accusations because of their exclusivity. Devil worship is usually associated with certain rituals or witchcraft. A ritual is a religious ceremony that is performed and has a specific series of actions that must be performed in a prescribed order. There has been written, verbal, and even video evidence of some sort of, quote, ritual happening during these parties, but that's something we'll get into later on in this presentation. Lastly, a sacrifice is to kill an animal or a person for the purpose of offering it as a gift to a god, usually in hopes of getting something in return. We will also dive deeper into the sacrifice part. You'll see the word effigy is used in relation to Bohemian Grove opening ceremony. Is it a baby, a lamb, or just a pile of sticks? A former FBI agent, Kenneth Lange, who worked in the Bureau's Behavioral Science Unit on the bunch of abuse cases like those involved in the Satanic Panic, mentions the following sentence. When people get emotionally involved in an issue, common sense and reason go out the window. People believe what they want and need to believe. So what should we believe and not believe about what is going on in the Bohemian Grove?
Today I will be explaining why satanic rituals and sacrifices are happening at Bohemian Grove. So in this slide, I will be proving why human sacrifice is happening at the Bohemian Grove. I'll be using Alex Jones's video. Just for some context, pretty much Alex Jones is a journalist that snuck into Bohemian Grove. He recorded a ritual called the cremation of care. There were men with torches and robes. They carried out a coffin that supposedly had an effigy inside, and then they took that effigy out and lit it on fire. And then a loud scream happened, and the video is put right underneath this slide, so you can watch it. And there is a picture of it right in the corner. But in the video, the priest stated, "So shall we burn thee once again this night, and with the flames I eat thine effigy." So there is proof that there is a human-like body. There is no evidence proving human sacrifice and that the effigy is an actual body, but there are several reasons indicating that it is. So the reason that people believe that an actual human sacrifice happened at the cremation of care is because the effigy, so first of all, an effigy is pretty much like a model shaped like a human body. People believe that wasn't an actual effigy, and they were just calling it an effigy to hide it from the fact that it was an actual body. Also, there was a loud, painful, human-like scream when the body was torched on fire, which also fuels up the idea that that was a human. And then we have the worshipping of the owl. It is common throughout history for Satanists to sacrifice blood for power. In this case, they are worshipping the owl for wisdom. So it would make sense that they would sacrifice a human for wisdom in return. And then also the fact that they have the robes and the coffin and the torches, this all leads to this idea of this satanic ritual, because throughout Satanism, they have used these objects throughout their rituals and practices. So it kind of just feeds into the idea of a human sacrifice happening. And then there's also the question, what benefit is there from mimicking a human sacrifice? What's the point in faking that? So that's making people believe that it must be an actual human sacrifice, because there's no point to fake that. And these are my reasons for why the human sacrifice is happening at Bohemian Grove.
Our tale. Gather, ye forest folk, and cast your spell over these mortals. Touch their world-blind eyes with fairy unbelief. Open their eyes of fancy. Follow the memories of yesterday and seal the gates of sorrow.
So now I'll be introducing some evidence that disproves this conspiracy theory of satanic rituals and sacrifices happening at Bohemian Grove. So how this conspiracy theory initially gained the traction that it did has everything to do with this man, Alex Jones. He has a questionable reputation. He's a well-known conspiracy theorist that makes a lot of paranoid and outlandish accusations about the government. And he's made an empire out of selling misinformation and disinformation. In the year 2000, Alex Jones decides to infiltrate this encampment of Bohemian Grove, and he captures a video of an event that occurs here. Most can admit what he captures is very strange. There's people in cloaks. They're speaking in like a sort of Shakespearean language. There's a giant looming structure in the back, and they're surrounding a fire. And he sees these people bring out what is shaped as a person, and they begin to burn it. He makes the claim that they're sacrificing people, what's going on is satanic, and he just makes all of these accusations. Before I get into exactly why none of that is true and what is actually happening, I want to emphasize something we've touched on before in this class. We know Bohemian Grove involves lots of men in power. It's very secretive and exclusive, and it's well known that it's extremely hard to become a part of this club. But just because something is private and exclusive and involves people in power does not mean there's something sinister going on behind the scenes. Jon Ronson is a British journalist and author known for his investigative journalism and conspiracy theories. He has also had multiple TED Talks and been on podcasts and talk shows. Jon Ronson was also present with Alex Jones along with Alex's videographer when they snuck into the opening ceremony for the Bohemian Grove members. Jon said that they were in fact not sacrificing a child, but that it was an effigy, and that Alex was saying this because he was fired up with the rest of the crowd who were really into the ceremony. A direct quote by Jon Ronson on the Joe Rogan podcast was, "He has a conspiracy template, and whatever real-world event happens, he then shoehorns it into this kind of simplistic template." Here he is speaking about how Alex Jones wrongfully identifies what is actually going on during the ceremony. He states because Alex Jones thrives with coming up with conspiracy theories that a lot of the things he sees, even if they have a simple explanation, he twists his own thoughts into believing it's a conspiracy theory. There are many ways in which our senses can fool us, even when we have first-hand experience of an event. Our mind likes patterns and sticking with them. Because of this, we can miss clean and obvious data if it doesn't conform to our preconceived notions and biases, or if we simply aren't paying attention to something else. Although this situation isn't necessarily a pattern that doesn't exist, in Alex Jones' mind, everything like this that he sees here follows under his perception of satanic rituals and sacrifices. He totally misses the fact that this group was first created for theater, and during the time, how popular theater performances were that may have to appear satanic with their wardrobe and Shakespearean scripture-like language. In theory, it might be a ritual, but not a satanic one. It's a, quote, ritual for the club members to let go of their fears and worries of their everyday lives behind in order to fully enjoy their retreat vacation.
So something that is notable is the source written by William Domhoff. It's a piece of writing about Bohemian Grove and goes into depth about the activities that are occurring. And it really emphasizes the lack of malicious activity. This quote here says, "Before the Bohemians return to the everyday world, they will be treated to plays, variety shows, song fests, shooting contests, art exhibits, swimming, boating, and nature rides." When you take this perspective, it almost seems sort of foolish and funny to think about the conspiracy theory of satanic rituals and sacrifices. And I do consider this a pretty credible source considering the Central Intelligence Agency posted this article themselves. So if what is happening in this video is not satanic or sacrificial, what did Alex Jones really see? We have to admit it is very weird and questionable, and it has the potential to look very suspicious. But what Alex Jones actually saw was a long-standing tradition. It's a traditional play or ceremony called the Cremation of Care. It's a theatrical performance with a cast and a crew, and the sacrifice that Alex Jones claimed that he saw was actually an effigy, which is basically just a fake person. It was made of sticks, and it actually has a name and a role in this play, and its name is Dull Care. It's burnt in this performance as a symbol. It represents releasing anxieties and stresses of the outside world. This retreat is where these men go to not talk about work or even think about it. These are political figures. They have lots of responsibilities. It's a symbolic form of release and relaxation for them and sets the tone for the lighthearted and festive events to come. An actual quote from the script of this performance is, "Shake off your sorrows with the city's dusts and scatter to the winds the cares of life." This really is just a festive, theatrical event that has no sinister or malicious intentions. It is simply just an outlandish performance that is a long-standing tradition, and it means a lot to these people of Bohemian Grove. This is not a place of power, it's a place where the powerful relax. They enjoy each other's company and get to know some of the artists, entertainers, comedians, and professors who are included. There is no satanic rituals or sacrificing occurring at Bohemian Grove.
Based on this evidence, can we determine if the rituals are really satanic? To answer that question, yes, we can. So let's compare the facts. First off, let's recap on the reasons why the Bohemian Grove was believed to be satanic. As we know, the video that journalist/reporter Alex Jones recorded sneaking into the cremation of care ceremony raised suspicion of possible satanic practices. Based on the footage in the video, this assumption doesn't seem like a stretch. I mean, I know when I watched it, the video seemed pretty unnerving. As well, in the video, you can hear the actor speaking in quite a bizarre way, and it seems to resemble Old English. Alex Jones himself describes the members in the play as wearing black and brown cloaks, which is an odd costume choice. If you think about some other times we've seen people in cloaks, a natural thought might be the Ku Klux Klan, which was in fact a racist cult targeting minorities. Could that be telling us something? Alex Jones also mentioned the burning of the effigy. He heard a loud, eerie scream. So was it an effigy being burned, or was it a person? Because effigies don't scream. However, even if what was being burned in the ritual was an effigy, the burning of an object that has human resemblance is a well-known component of satanic practice, as most of us have seen it before in the use of voodoo dolls. Voodoo dolls are generally related to witchcraft practices, which is known to be the work of the devil. Again, relating back to the Alex Jones video recorded, the nature of the play was very bizarre, and it wasn't something you'd see in a typical Broadway feature. As far as the owl goes, in Satanism, ceremonies are said to have a sort of satanic statue present. This is seen in the example of the unveiling of a satanic statue in Detroit warehouse in 2015 during a satanic festival. The owl could very well be the rendition of a satanic statue for this ceremony. The last suspicious thing about this club would be its demographic. Only the top of the top are invited to this club, people who have power to make influential decisions on the country or the world itself. If the club was really just a bunch of guys hanging out, appreciating art, wouldn't other types of people be invited? But, using Occam's razor, we can determine that none of this is actually likely to be true. To explain the effigy, it actually turned out to be a bundle of sticks meant to represent dull care, meaning its burning symbolizes the celebration of releasing anxieties brought on by the outside world. This is the more likely explanation, as historically we know that effigies are used to celebrate holidays, like New Year's and Easter, or to commemorate political protests in many cultures. We see this done in European, Indian, Mexican, and American cultures. Now, diving into the cremation of care ceremony, there are a few factors that can justify its bizarre nature. If we look back on when and how the Bohemian Grove came to be, we can see that it was founded in 1872 by a group of lawyers, actors, artists, and musicians, and it was meant to be a safe haven for artistic expression. Considering this information, it is easy to explain why the play was so weird when we judge it by today's standards. In the late 19th century, melodramas were types of dramatized plays that gained a lot of popularity, and in Shakespearean plays that fell into that category. This is the most likely explanation for the weird costumes, old language, and theatrical antics. To further prove this, the motto from Bohemian Grove, "Weaving spiders come not here," is an actual line from Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a very unconventional play itself. Also, it is well known that artistic individuals tend to have eccentric minds. This is a more logistical explanation than satanic rituals, don't you think? Now moving on to the owl statue, it was actually not a satanic statue, but a statue of moral wisdom, prosperity, and protective energies. This symbol of the owl was coined in ancient Chinese philosophy, and in the case of Bohemian Grove, the owl's symbolism corresponds with the intent of the cremation of care play. Never in history was the owl coined as a satanic figure, but one of only positive philosophical outcomes. So, the likelihood of it being a satanic symbol is slim to none. Now, one may say, if Bohemian Grove is not part of some larger phenomenon, how come there are so many influential figures a part of this club? To answer that, the explanation is simple. Though the club was first founded by more artistic figures, those people could not financially support it, and in order to save it, they sought out those who had brains, money, and power, which at the time was all men, to continue its traditions, hence why that demographic now makes up its club members. In conclusion, the creation of this theory was due to patternicity and moral panic. Patternicity suggests that we have the tendency to create patterns where they do not exist, and in the case of Bohemian Grove, this happened because people were presented with a thing that was private, exclusive, with no readily available explanations. Thus, the theory of Bohemian Grove was a result of a type 1 error, and as the misinformation about the grove spread, it became an evil entity of panic.